Finish him. Or her?
Welcome. And today we'll dive into a couple of pro-revenge stories and their reactions to the posts. I did to my neighbor what they did to others. And fired from my last job, but I got the last laugh. Hi, this is Derek. I just put the Drama Llama, Fred, back in his pen so that I can do this quick video for you with some of the stuff that Fred found on Reddit earlier today. If this is your first time watching our videos, help me out by watching to the end, and then giving me some feedback in the comment area below. And if you want more of these videos daily, don't forget to like and subscribe, with notifications turned on for this channel. Oh boy, let's get ready for some deep-seated revenge. I did to my neighbor what they did to others. To start, I bought a house with the intention of doing a flip. When I moved in, the self-appointed blog captain let me know who they were the first day. Sadly, they were my next-door neighbors. I tried to be friendly, but listening to them I realized how horrible they were, but I tried to still be civil. My significant other kept saying, "Just wait for it to be our turn." They bragged about, through their contacts with the city, forcing people to make improvements on their houses, getting undesirable renters out of the houses, and just harassing people in general. As I worked on flipping my house, the wife became a worse thorn in my side. To start, she demanded I put up a fence so people would quit cutting through my yard and scaring her. Then, her and the husband demanded I take care of the weeds in the yard, or they will do it and bill me. After that there was a storm, and a tree scraped their shingles, and they asked for $1,200 to replace them. The tree was there before I moved in, and by right they are responsible to cut back the branches to the property line. When I wouldn't pay, they had a relative jump my fence and cut the trees down. Needless to say, I began to ignore them so they became a constant gnat, and moved on to another target. Then one day, as I was tearing down my deck for a patio, I realized she put a feral cat colony on a section of my property. I had wondered why all the stray cats were around, and I finally found out. I reached out to the city and demanded it be removed, but they said she followed the law on getting it in place. As I tried to get it shut down, she became unhinged. Her behavior ranged from standing in her window staring at me, yelling out the window at me, to hitting the fence with items to scare my dog. That was the last straw, so here is where my revenge started. I started by filing a HRO/harassment restraining order against the wife, and had it granted ex parte, this means without a hearing, with the evidence I provided. Of course she contested, as it was defamatory to her character. So this meant, we are now going to court. Before the hearing, the husband tried to physically intimidate me. So I filed one against him and it was also granted ex parte. In the hearing, it came up that there was an HRO against the husband as well. However, they dodged being served, until I had it published as a means of service. I started to make complaints about them, and their house. Also, I made police calls when necessary. As I did this, the other neighbors began to realize they could do to them what they had done to them, and others. For example, as I was having my front door replaced, needing a building work permit. I knew they were doing internal remodeling, so I called a city inspector, and they were fined for not having a permit. As she ranted at the inspector, he looked at my window and saw I had mine displayed. Their back porch became hoarded, so I made another call to a city inspector, and they had to clear it out. Then they had a broken window on the porch door, so I called an inspector, and they had to replace the door. Next, the paint on their house was peeling, so I called an inspector and they had to repaint. The inspector also found the wood underneath was rotted and their front porch was sloping. So, they needed to fix the front porch, replace sections of wood and repaint. Through all this, they had up cameras to prove they were not doing the things I said. Example, hitting the fence. They also pointed a camera at my backyard. As it was illegal to point a camera into my yard, and a part of my HRO was her intrusive watching behaviors, I always gave the camera the middle finger on my way to and from my garage. So whenever she complained about that, with the city tiring of her, their response was she was admitting to intrusively watching me. The fight over the cat colony came to an end when I realized one of the cats had a serious disease, and I began to capture them and turn them into animal control. Don't worry, animal control was part of the feral cat program, so they would not be put down, but the neighbor would have to pay a fine to get each cat out or have the colony closed. Then finally, I caught the sick one, and it had rabies. Part of the program was for her to capture each new cat, and have it vaccinated. The vaccination was something she admitted to willingly not be doing, on her GoFund for the colony. I soon had the GoFundMe shut down, when I provided the evidence she was not using the funds, as she stated they were going to be used. The city now had to act to close the colony. The person at Animal Control who wouldn't respond to my complaints was fired. The neighbors called in a city mediator who we met, and presented all the evidence, and said we would not meet with them, and provided extremely racist tweets they made about neighbors. The city cut ties with them as community leaders. At this point their power to bully was gone, and they had to spend lots in, what I can only imagine, in fines and repairs, like they did to numerous other neighbors. After 14 years, they sold their house and moved out, way out to the suburbs, where they only have one neighbor about 50 yards away. They knew I was wrapping up my flip, and would be out in less than a year. Without being able to bully their neighbors, with people having their back, they seemed to have no further reason to stay. Needless to say, I did several more things to wear them down. Finally, when I listed my house, it was sold, while theirs was still on the market. As a final FU to them, I reported to the county they had both the new and old house listed as their homestead. Meaning they were paying less in property taxes, so they got hit with more fines on my way out. What are your thoughts on Chicken Fashion Show's ProRevenge story? Please share in the comments below. Here's how some Reddit members reacted to this story. Marshall Mello reacted with, "You flipped the house, you flipped them off, and you flipped the tables on them. What didn't you flip?" LL Cool Jesse reacted with, "Cut down your trees. Where are all the amateur tree lawyers at?" I know, right? That's a lot of money you could have gotten. Now on to our next pro-revenge story posted by Beagle on Base, titled, "Fired from my last job, but I got the last laugh." Pardon the format, I am on mobile. I worked at a retail chain that sold pet supplies and products. When I started working there, it was great, family owned, and everyone I worked with was fantastic. The owners eventually wanted to retire, and sold the small chain to an investment group. Once the investment group took over, almost all but a few employees were let go, forced out, or just quit. I hung on for a little while longer, before I got promoted at my other job. Then the new company brings in a new manager to my store. My store was the top performing store in the entire chain, bringing in about $10,000 to $12,000 per day on average. It was always more on weekends, and especially around the holidays. The new manager is a Mr. Company man, and the company told him they only want employees around for 2 to 3 years, myself, and 2 others had been there 10 plus years. So naturally he began ruffling feathers, and giving us all a hard time. Unfortunately he decided on me first. Mr. Company man found out I worked 2 jobs. The 2 jobs are not in related fields, so there was no chance of any conflicts of interest on my end. However, my second job requires me to work nights and weekends. When Mr. Company man found this out, he demanded I work nights/weekends there, so it was fair for everyone. I don't work nights and weekends there, because I was the only OSHA certified forklift operator. And deliveries don't come at night, they came weekday mornings, every day. Mr. Company man didn't want to hear that, and told me I either had to work nights and weekends, or that day would be my last day. I told him, "Don't threaten me with a good time, I suppose today is my last day then." I was pretty pissed about that, but it's not a big deal now, and ended up being the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I went home early, didn't finish my shift, because F them. But when I got home, I decided to call my local OSHA inspector, and report them for not having a certified operator on staff, as well as numerous other hazards. Needless to say, they lost close to 3 weeks' profit from all the violations the inspector found. I was surprised they even showed up. In my state, the inspector will call you back after an inspection, and tell you if your claims were founded or not. Mine were. And Mr. Company man got his ass chewed out so bad he ended up quitting. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect him to really get any attention. Thanks all for the awards. To add a bit more, after I was fired, it really motivated me to get my behind in gear, and get back in school. Working as a stationary engineer now. Thanks everyone. Edit 2. Wow, this really blew up. I am editing again to make a few clarifications. My state does not have a forklift license, it's really called a power lift operator's license. The license needs to be renewed every 4 years. There are 7 classes of power lift here. I was certified in 1 through 6, class 7 being any lift equipped with pneumatic tires, which I would never have needed to use, because ours was a class 5. There is no federal regulation, standard or language that requires certification to my best knowledge. But my AHJs, authority having jurisdiction, are allowed to make regulations and standards that are more stringent than federal ones. These standards and regulations are typically enforced by the local Department of Labor office, or OSHA office. Thanks all. What are your thoughts on Beagle on Base ProRevenge story? Please share in the comments below. Here's how some Reddit members reacted to this story. Desperado reacted with: "The funny thing is the OSHA certification course, at least in my state, is insanely easy, 4 hours of video and instruction. An easy written exam, and an exam with a forklift, where you move a couple things around. But that prick manager couldn't be bothered with training anyone else." And finally, T-Bone Steak reacted with: "Brilliant move on your end. Some people don't realize that going after some people would end up resulting in a levy of fines and repercussions from people further up the corporate ladder being brought down. What goes around comes around. Butthole just got his desserts." Well, there you have it. A perfectly great question answered by a bunch of fine and honorable citizens. Help support this channel by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. And hit that silly little bell as well to ensure you get the latest videos as they come out. Fred is always finding stuff for me to post regularly. So this is Derek signing off. Thanks for watching. Good grief, it sounds like Fred is out of his pen again. I think he found more drama for me to share with you. See you soon.